Yeah, I do have a book planned, as a matter of fact, that I postponed another book that I was working on in order to do it, partly because I was inspired by some items that I'd seen, frankly, on the Campaign for Liberty blog and on the 10th Amendment Center blog. It amazes me that there are a bunch of states and a whole bunch of Facebook groups, one for every state and a national group, that's considering nullifying unconstitutional federal laws. So in other words, there's a chance that state legislators might be persuaded to do the right thing and actually stand up to these jerks in D.C., who just think they can just do whatever they want. Now, of course, when the people resist this, then the people are demonized, not the government that's overreaching, of course. It's the people who resist the overtures of their wise overlords. So I decided that I would write a little handbook for this burgeoning movement and just call it Nullification, with making the case for it, which is very hard to do with a population that's educated to believe that the state should just shut up, and people in the states are probably stupid rubes who just want to oppress other people and all that. But make the case of the moral case, the constitutional case, the American history case, and then the second half of the book will be all the documents you weren't assigned in school. So Jefferson and Madison speaking in favor of this idea of the states to resist the federal government. I've got some stuff that's never been published since it first appeared over 150 years ago that makes the case. So these are documents that we would all know about if they did argue for federal supremacy, but because they don't, no one knows about them, so I'm going to bring those back. And this will just be one of these little handbooks you can have in your hand to make the case for why doing the right thing makes sense. As usual, the effect will be to inconvenience Americans and humiliate them more and more, and will have zero effect on anything. I mean, they're always good at dealing with yesterday's terrorists. The tactic that will never again be used. That we've got handled. But this most recent thing, this most recent incident we had, in the couple of days that followed, suddenly they had security going crazy, but none of the additional things they introduced would have stopped this person. So it was completely pointless. It was utterly, in every way, completely pointless what they did. And my favorite example recently, I can't remember the airport, but somebody was trying to bring some honey on board. Now, so they go through and they find in the bag the person's got some honey. Well, they didn't know it was honey, so they open it up and they smell it. These are the TSA employees, and they're saying, oh, it's some kind of chemical. And so the TSA employees, they all suddenly, some of them, I kid you not, they're feeling lightheaded, they're dizzy. They have to be taken to the hospital because they smelled some honey. Well, I'll tell you why what they were smelling was the opportunity to get the day off, right? Oh, it's a chemical that I had to smell. I think it's a terrorist. It was freaking honey. Now, could you imagine a private firm getting away with nonsense like this, shutting down an entire airport because a jar of honey was going? It's unbelievable. This would never be tolerated under any other circumstances. No private firm, it would be gone. That would be it. But we've just got to sit here and be insulted, treated like children. So no, we should say no. This should immediately be privatized. And these bums who have to be hospitalized after they smell honey should find something else, something productive to do instead of harassing normal people. Well, I think it's because Ron Paul actually understands the economy. He's been proven right 50 zillion times over. I mean, how many times can one guy be vindicated? Like everything he said, foreign policy is a fiasco. The Fed is a fiasco. The economy, everything he's talked about. How many times can the guy be vindicated? And here he was called a crank and stupid, whatever. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. People supporting a zombie like Mitt Romney, having the nerve to call anybody a crank. He understands, Austrian economics, the free market. He knows that Austrian economics has nothing to do with the city of Vienna. Like, he knows it's a school of thought. He actually knows something. And that's very important, and he can explain it, articulate it in a way that resonates with the public. They say, here's a guy who knows what he's talking about, and yeah, the remedies that he proposes seem, extreme, so-called. Well, the situation we're in is extreme, right? The government is extreme. Spending the kinds of money that they want to spend is extreme. And meanwhile, we've got the old-style supply-siders. They've they've pulled out, who are like in their 80s at this point, telling us deficits don't matter. We've had greater deficits and debts as a percentage of GDP in the past, so don't worry. All right, well, the difference is in the past, we were fighting Hitler at the time. All right, that's a little different because eventually you defeat Hitler. Whereas here, this is regular peacetime. This is just going to go on and on and on. And Ron Paul actually says, nobody could run a household like this. Nobody could run a business like this. So this can't go on. Something that can't go on won't go on. So he's getting a lot of attention for that, and that's wonderful. It's a source of inspiration to me to realize there are enough people out there who don't want to be talked down to, who actually want to learn the truth. That's a wonderful thing. And incidentally, I remember one of the debates. There were just a few candidates left in the Republican primary. It was Romney, Fred Thompson, Ron Paul, and a couple others. And it was one time they were asking a question. They said, "Now any of you can take this one, but it's on the economy." And they asked this question about the economy. The only one who wanted to take it was Ron Paul. I mean, here's like the biggest issue we've got, and the only person who even wants to try to take a crack at the answer was Ron Paul. The other guys go, "Oh." I mean, this is really scary stuff. I mean, these are people. I don't know what it would take to convince you, if you don't already see, that the guys Ron Paul was running against are a bunch of drones. Would we have to open the backs of their heads and show you the circuitry and the wiring? Like, what would it actually take? The remote control? What would it take to see this? But I'm thrilled that he's getting this attention, because the more people like Ron Paul are heard from in the media, the greater chance we have to escape the calamity, the financial calamity that's coming. Because there are two ways we can get out of this. We can educate ourselves and figure out what's really going on and make the drastic changes that need to be made before it's too late. Or catastrophe strikes, a currency collapse occurs, and in the midst of social chaos, we try to make the necessary changes. Well, I know which option I prefer. I think Campaign for Liberty has done an awful lot of productive things. I've been a part of all the regional conferences that have been held. I've spoken in one capacity or another, and the people I've met here have been great, energetic, knowledgeable, but thirsting for more knowledge. And from a legislative point of view, I don't know as much because I don't keep up with it as closely, but I know Campaign for Liberty has friends in various state legislatures that are introducing not just resolutions, but things that want to go a little bit beyond resolutions, really action-oriented measures to try to do something at the state level to stop what the federal government is doing, and I think that's a very productive thing. And I think also Campaign for Liberty helped to raise the visibility of the Audit the Fed campaign, which was fantastically successful in the sense that you had about 317 co-sponsors of something, a couple of years ago no one would even have understood the question. So, these are, and the fact that the membership is expanding at the very, very healthy rate that it is. I mean, it almost seems like a Greenspan bubble that's expanding so fast, but this is a good kind of expansion. So I think everybody can be very pleased by the progress and look forward to more in the future.